I was first introduced to the Munchables thanks to a video review on GamePro.com which first piqued my interest in the game. I love quirky niche titles, and the GamePro editor's enthusiasm for this game won me over at a time when I had no interest in the Wii whatsoever, dismissing it as a shovelware system with a few good Nintendo-made games and a stupid control gimmick. I wasn't anti-Wii per se, I just didn't care about the system in the least, which was a common view that most traditional style gamers took at that time. However, those traditional Nintendo titles, games like the Munchables, and even playing D-Blob with a friend's nephew at the time won me over to the system. When I finally picked up a Wii, the one that came with Mario Kart because you couldn't pay me money to actually care about Wii Sports, I made sure that the Munchables was one of the first games I picked up for this system. The Munchables, being developed by the same team as Katamari, takes the growth gameplay of Katamari Damacy, where rolling things up eventually grows your Katamari into a massive ball capable of gaining access to areas that were previously inaccessible, and puts an eating spin on the formula, where your main character, either Chompy or Munchie, grows bigger by eating enemies and gaining size levels until they are able to access new areas in each map.
The once peaceful planet of Starveen has been invaded by Don Onion and his diabolical army of space pirates who have stolen the great orbs which would feed the Munchables, who are the planet's inhabitants. The Munchables, as the game's manual says, are greedy and hungry creatures. Now it's up to Chomper and Munchie to recapture the legendary orbs by eating as many of the invaders as possible. The Munchables is a testament to the fact that a game doesn't always have to be challenging to be an incredibly addictive experience. The Munchables, being aimed at children, is an easy game to beat. However, its gameplay and design is addictive enough to pull in gamers of all ages. The simple concept, yet fun gameplay will addictively draw in anyone no matter their age. This is a hard game to put down, whether you're 6 years old or 60. Not to be played on an empty stomach. The core gameplay is simple. Players start as either Munchie or Chomper and eat enemies to gain levels and grow larger in size, which allows you to gain access to new parts of the level, usually blocked by obstacles that can then be eaten once you gain the required level to do so. Larger enemies that are at a higher level than the player can be dash attacked to be broken up into smaller enemies that can be eaten. The levels end whenever you complete the final objective, which is usually stated at the beginning of each level. There are power-ups that can aid the player in eating more enemies, and also an exploration element where there are a set number of acorns hidden throughout the maps to be found, finding all of which unlocks a new accessory or clothing item basically. Some levels will throw in some additional objectives like hunting down and eating 20 ghosts in a haunted mansion, or finding and eating a set amount of statues. After you complete the lower levels in each area, you are then thrown into a boss fight against bosses like Broccoli or Rice Baller. Rinse and repeat this cycle 8 times and you beat the game, unlocking the mirror mode and a new character to play as. The bosses do have a little strategy to them, even if they are pretty much pushovers. And the game does a good job at explaining the boss strategy mid-game for those bosses where it's not instantly obvious on what to do. The final level even has a boss rush scenario, where you refight all the previous stage bosses before taking on the final boss, the King Pumpkin. Being only 8 levels long, the game is short, but the addictive gameplay always draws you in to play just one more level, meaning you will probably beat it very quickly. Once you beat the game, the mirrored mode is unlocked, which is a mode that, as the name suggests, mirrors the game maps, but adds a time limit to complete each level, acting like a time attack mode. Overall, the short length doesn't hamper the experience, because its addictive gameplay means that it's always fun to play through it again. Also, finding all the acorns and beating the time attack modes do give the game a little more length, if you're a completionist type gamer. Graphically, the game looks pretty good for a Wii game. It definitely fits the colorful, cutesy look of being a kid's game. The varied locales, from a forest to a desert to even a haunted house, are aesthetically pleasing, while the cutesy characters and objects in the game have that slight luminescent glow to them that was common in a lot of Wii games. Visually, by Wii standards, there isn't much to complain about here. The game looks and runs well overall.
well. And while the game does feature some Wiimote waggling, it's put to a minimum here. The nunchuck is required for this game, and the only time you have to waggle is for jumping, and those occasions when you get hit by an enemy and have to waggle the controller to get back to normal. Flicking the Wiimote to jump is similar to the jumping mechanic in D-Blob, which I played before I played the Munchables. And while it's far from the most accurate way to handle jumping, it works okay, and feels a little bit more accurate in the Munchables than it does in D-Blob. For those who despise motion controls, they aren't overly implemented here, and everything else in the game from scarfing down enemies to the dash attack to the Z targeting feels natural to pull off. The music in the game is excellent. Some tracks are quirky, similar to the tunes in Katamari. And other tracks fit the atmospheric theme of the level, like the music in the haunted house. The tunes are well composed, and all around fit the cartoony aesthetic of the game. The sound effects from the dash attack to the chomping effect as you gobble up your enemies also fit the game well, and sound like stock cartoon effects. There's really nothing to nitpick here, unless you're a parent who's already fed up with quirky and annoying cartoon sounds. The bottom line. The Munchables may be derivative of Katamari, but it uses that same evergreen, always fun growth formula and is an incredibly addictive game that appeals to gamers of all ages. Don't let the fact that the game is aimed at kids dissuade you from enjoying this must-play Wii title. If you're collecting for the Wii, I wholeheartedly recommend putting the Munchables in your collection. Just don't play it on an empty stomach.